As we've talked about before, the Joseph novella is a discrete and compact document with internal integrity. It could almost be taken out of the pages of Genesis as is and be published as its own standalone book. This has led scholars across the years to believe that as the book of Genesis came together, the Joseph story was added as an independent narrative. You might be familiar with the documentary hypothesis regarding the authorship of the Torah, which says that there are four easily identifiable authors of the first five books of the Bible. These authors are known as the Yahwist, the Elohist, the Priestly, and the Deuteronomist. When one looks at the Hebrew language of the Torah, you can see four different modes of Hebrew as the language develops over the centuries. You can see different ways of referring to God as Elohim or Yahweh, different ways of the understanding of sacrifice and those who are authorized to make sacrifices, among other differences. What arises from this documentary hypothesis is that when Genesis, as we know it, was composed, they took different bits and pieces from different times and knit them together into one document. If true, and almost every biblical scholar in the world does in fact think this is true, then it shows an utterly remarkable process through which the Word of God was received and transmitted using the hands of dozens, if not hundreds, of faithful servants of God. Modern scholarship, though, gets stuck when it comes to the story of Joseph. It does not neatly fit into any of the four source materials. It is incredibly hard to date. It has unique features that do not show themselves in the rest of the Torah. Just like it has internal integrity and could stand on its own, it also sort of sticks out like a sore thumb. So we think that it was, in fact, its own discrete document that was expertly edited into the narrative flow of Genesis to, of course, get Israel to Egypt so that they could be in Egypt to be delivered out of it in the Exodus. Some scholars, like Dr. Arendt, Meinhold, Conrad Schmid, Jürgen Ebach, among others, believe that the story of Joseph was a northern Israelite document written after the fall of Israel in 22 AD at the hands of the Assyrians. After this horrific military defeat, most of the populace was taken off into exile, never to fully return, at least not in any organized way. These scholars believe that the story served a purpose to answer the question, can God's sovereignty and election of Israel stay intact when the people of Israel are no longer in Israel? The Joseph story shows a son of Israel thriving with God's miraculous intervention in a foreign land. Being in Egypt did not render Joseph impotent. God's sovereignty was able to cross the geographical boundaries and make Joseph's star rise to heights previously unimagined. If Joseph was written during this exile, it could have served as a comfort to people who feared that God had abandoned them, or worse, God couldn't or wouldn't continue to bless Israel while it was exiled in a foreign land. Remember, ancient peoples believed that the gods were national and regional. We have our gods, they have their gods. But the story of Joseph shows that to be nonsense, as will, of course, the story of Moses. The resounding answer to this question posed in exile is that God indeed can see his people thrive wherever they are, for God is God of the universe. Not bad, right? This is one strong possibility for the authorship of Joseph, but it's not the only possibility. Critics of this view point to the now familiar counterstory, the tale of Senui. Senui left Egypt and Senui thrived, right? And as we saw, the tale of Senui is a story of Egyptian patriotism. But Egypt did not need to be in exile to write such a story. And in fact, when the story was written down around 1800 BC, they were not in exile. In fact, Egyptian history never records Egyptians in exile. So another band of scholars have proposed something else. They say the story of Joseph long predates the Israelite exile. They think it was composed during the height of the northern kingdom of Israel, while it was a powerhouse showing its superiority over its southern rival, the kingdom of Judah. To these scholars, the story of Joseph takes the story of Jacob Israel with his 12 sons and focuses it like a laser on Joseph's primacy, which will eventually become the primacy of Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. In a previous session, we looked at the literary tool of ananeresis and how the author of the story could have chosen to tell the story in a dramatically different way by not focusing on Joseph and by allowing us to be surprised by Joseph's identity in Egypt as the brothers were. We could have all been shocked together, but such a telling of the story would not have allowed us to focus on Joseph as much as it does for a northern Israelite author who was trying to show the northern kingdom's superiority to the southern kingdom. Such a tack could have made no sense. In the story, we see a clear affinity for Joseph, obviously, as he got the coat, right? We also see a clear affinity for Benjamin, the other son of Rachel. Jacob refuses to let Benjamin go. He can't bear losing him. Like, Benjamin is Jacob's second favorite son. Reuben, quite hilariously, offers to kill his own 2 sons if Benjamin didn't return from Egypt. Judah offers his own life to Joseph so that Benjamin doesn't go to jail, or worse, when the cup is found in his bag. Everyone is bowing towards Joseph as his dreams foretold, and people are throwing themselves and their children in front of Pharaoh in order to protect Benjamin, including Judah. What's the tribe that inhabits the southern kingdom, the tribe that gives its name to the southern kingdom? Judah. What other scholars see in the lines of the story is a recognition within the whole story that the children of Rachel are the most important. Jacob saw it, Reuben sees it, Judah saw it, and then the 2 grandchildren of Rachel through Joseph are also given a superior place. They get the main blessing that Jacob gives before his death. Who is most important by the end of the story? Joseph, and by extension, Ephraim and Manasseh, and Benjamin. Where were the tribes of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin? The north. What was Judah? The south. And in the story, the patriarchs, whose tribes inhabit the north, are shown to be God's favorites, Jacob Israel's favorites, and even the patriarch of the southern kingdom, Judah, knows it, and he demonstrates it. This way of looking at the story sees it like some patriotic tale of the 1700s, where someone from the family and lineage of King George had bowed down and offered his life to someone in the family and lineage of George Washington. The scholars see this story as a patriotic tale of the northern kingdom of Israel, where they got to be the favorite, the most important, and the blessed. The scholars who see the story in this way date the story to the zenith of the northern kingdom in terms of political power, economic power, and influence, over and above their southern kingdom cousins, which would date this story, or this version of the story, to the 8th century BC. Both of these quite different views on the place of the story of Joseph in Genesis see it as a creation of the northern kingdom, and both see it as having a clear political message for its audience.